Okay, thank you, everybody. We will call the regular regional council meeting to order at 6:33. Apologize, we're a little bit late. The in-camera special meeting went a little longer than we thought. We acknowledge that the Northern Rockies Regional Administration Center is located in the heart of the traditional territories of the Dene, Cree, and Dunezaw people of the Fort Nelson First Nation and the Prophet River First Nation. We further recognize the rights inherent in our treaty. Finally, we celebrate the contributions and enduring presence of the Métis people living in our region. Please be advised that tonight's meeting is available for the public to attend virtually. It is being streamed and recorded. Are there any additions to tonight's agenda? Council? There's one proclamation here that I would make. Their proclamations at 7. Anybody else? Seeing none? Staff?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there anybody who wishes to make a public comment on tonight's agenda? In the room, seeing nobody online. Is there anybody online? No? Thank you. Adoption of tonight's agenda as amended is in order. Moved by Councillor Gerwing. Second by Councillor Souls. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. We have one set of minutes to adopt the Regional Council meeting of October the 23rd. Move for adoption, please. Moved by Councillor Dickey. Second by Councillor Gerwing. Are there any errors or omissions in that meeting minutes? Seeing none, all in favor for adoption? Opposed? Carried. Is there any business arising from that meeting? Council? Staff? Okay. Thank you. That brings us all the way down to 7.1, and it is my pleasure to proclaim November 20th to 24th as National Addictions Awareness Week. I'll read the proclamation. Whereas National Addictions Awareness Week highlights solutions to help address how mental health and addictions relate to each other. And whereas National Addiction Awareness Week's purpose is to raise awareness in the community and by doing so reduce the stigma that exists for those individuals who are marginalized by addictions and increase the support for those affected so that they are able to seek treatment and resources which will allow them to live a life free from their addiction. Now therefore be it resolved, I, Rob Fraser, Mayor of the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality, do hereby proclaim November 20th to 24th, 2023 as National Addictions Awareness Week. I urge all citizens, businesses, public, private agencies, schools, and community members to support and participate in alcohol and drug-free activities and recognize the theme for 2023 as Everybody Knows Somebody. Thank you. Is there a representative here? I don't think there is. Okay. We'll make sure that that gets out to the appropriate people. Thank you. That brings us to 8 reports and bylaws. So administrators from report 5923, the BC Active Transportation Infrastructure Grant for the Museum and Campground Pathway. Welcome.
Oh, okay.
I promise you,
I was like,
I'll buy you coffee.
welcome.
good evening, Mayor and Council. Today I bring forward report number 59 with respect to an application to the BC Active Transportation Infrastructure Grant Program. Earlier this year, Council approved a budget to proceed with the installation of a pathway that will connect the Fort Nelson Heritage Museum to the Triple G campground. It has since been identified that the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure offers a 70% cost-sharing grant program for projects that support safer and accessible transportations for all ages and abilities. Following a review of the grant guidelines, the project scope has been enhanced to include installation of a headwall structure for drainage, a seating area, trees, and wayfinding signage. As such, 2 project cost estimates are provided. Estimate 1 outlines the asphalt pathway as originally requested, with the addition of a headwall structure. And estimate 2 includes the installation of the pathway and headwall structure as well as signage, trees, and a seating area. As estimate 2 is in line with the program guidelines and the objectives of the NRM's Accessibility and Inclusion Committee, staff recommend that an application be made with a total project cost estimate of $203,000, with the NRM's contribution being $60,009.
Thank you for that report. Are there any questions? I think the timing is pretty good that this showed up at the same time as we wanted to do this project. So I guess sometimes when you get a delay, it works in your favor as opposed to against you. So so I am certainly comfortable with an enhanced scope, particularly if we're able to get the grant. So is there any other questions or comments? Councillor Souls, I see your
Well,
hand.
I just wanted to go and make the recommendation. That's
Go ahead.
that an application be made to the BC Active Transportation Infrastructure Grant Program for the installation of the museum and campground pathway, option 2, for 70% of total project costs estimated at $203,000.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Souls. Do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor Enax. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to 8.2, the Streeper Kennel signage and community branding for discussion.
Good evening,
Welcome.
Mayor and councillors. So the report before you provides an estimate of costs related to proposed signage that we learned about or heard about during the October 10th council meeting. It would be to costs to install 2 signs measuring 10 feet by 20 feet, recognizing the Streeper Kennels, and includes additional information for regional council's consideration. The background section of the report provides information of when and how the proposal was brought forward to council's attention. Most recently on October 10th, costs and graphic design of the proposed signage was provided by Councillor Enax, and an example of that signage is provided in attachment 1. In the analysis section of the report, pricing is included and a cost estimate was sought from Barristow and Associates. The cost of 2 signage, including support structures, would be in the range of $70,000 to $98,000 for 2 signs. And a drawing of the potential support structure is included in attachment 2. As far as location, at the October 10th Regional Council meeting, Regional Council seemed to favor locations located at the old RV Sandy dump or adjacent to the museum, as well as the areas surrounding the water treatment plant. And an illustration in attachment 3 is included, just demonstrating where the property lines are in relation to those 2 locations. Because the locations are adjacent to the highway right-of-way, information was sought from the Ministry of Transportation, and input was received regarding placement of signage within the highway right-of-way, and that's included in the report as well for council's consideration. There's information in the report regarding programs, projects, and ongoing initiatives that have been undertaken that include community engagement related to signage and community branding. Just to put this into perspective, for comparison, the proposed signage would be approximately twice the size of the current Bear Welcome to Fort Nelson signage that we have at both entrances of the community, making this more so potentially as a branding project as opposed to just simply a signage project. The report also outlines some different engagement or initiatives that are currently being undertaken that relate to signage and branding. Most recently, the Downtown Revitalization Plan, which included a fairly fulsome engagement process where we've heard about community interest to ensure that branding of the community is cohesive and tells the story of Fort Nelson and the families like the Streepers and the histories of people in Fort Nelson that have contributed to our history. There's other considerations in the report around policy, cohesiveness of community branding, and perceptions included in the report as well. And should Regional Council determine that the signage project is more reflective of a community branding project, we'd be more than happy to undertake community engagement to further define what that might look like. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Please.
I think it's a great project. I'm wondering this is just a sample of what it might look like. Because I think it's really important that visitors to the area understand how long they've been the champions. So if the sign, somewhere on the sign, it could say since 1989 or whatever the year that they first started winning world champions, I think that's a great idea. That would be a great idea.
Are there any other comments? Councillor next, do you have it, please?
I agree with Leslie. The Strieper family's been doing it for 60 years. 23 world championships. So the more information on it would be better. Because I really think that they need to be, recognized for their community contributions.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Okay, so don't take this the wrong way, because not that I don't agree with the project, but I don't know how I feel about it being a standalone branding effort, really. Like, this is going to be a very large sign, and I would like to see it in conjunction with the other projects that we have going on, like where do we want to put this sign? Like, eventually we'll want to get where you drive into either side of the town. There's a pullout. So it would be great if the sign could be there, but I know that that is far off. So not against the project, but I just want to make sure that we're not doing something today that in 3 years we wished we had done something a little bit differently. And then I was just wondering if we did delay it for however long until we figure out where we're going with the downtown revitalization project. There are things that I would like to see us do to honor this Strieper accomplishment. We could be posting that picture on our website. We could create a signage at the rec center, so along the ice surface where all the businesses used to put their sponsorships, and nobody's there now, pretty much. We could, have something like that, honoring more than the Striepers, but including the Striepers, but there could be other honorees as well all along that surface. And then on the electronic sign at the rec center, there could be an ongoing display honoring the accomplishments of the Strieper family. So that's my input.
Thank you. I have lots of thoughts. I guess somewhat similar to Councillor Grewing, that the difference is the idea that you have of something interim, which I think is a great idea, finding an interim, because I think I didn't want to see this turn into a branding project, because I don't think that's what its original intent was. And if it is as large and as we say, and we think that it'll start taking over the branding of the community, that we are, this community that should be known for dog sled racing, and we happen to have the world champion living here. That I don't know that that's what the community wants from a branding perspective. But I agree that that dogs in particular have a huge history here. From back in the day, when the indigenous people were here, they used them to hunt, and they used them for hunting and family purposes, and then started using them for transportation purposes, and then started getting into the recreation, and then eventually we ended up, with a family that's seen multiple world championships in a competitive perspective. To me, that whole story should be told, and it culminates in the Strieper family having all of these world championships for all of these years. I liken it to the sign that I see in Grand Prairie on Kelly Sutherland, which is kind of the same thing. It's a billboard size sign it used to be just on the outskirts of Grand Prairie, going northward out of town. And it basically had a photo of him like this in right in competition. And then it listed all the years that he'd won at the Calgary Stampede. I see something similar to that, but not as big perhaps as what this is being put forward as. I see it as a stopping point on a walking path that's part of the downtown revitalization process, you know, where or project where you've got stopping places, you know, as people you're touring people through the community on the boulevard, you know, with several different placards there of whatever the signage, you know, starts to look like for that project. And then you know, as people walk through the community, they can sit or they can stand and read, and that would pay homage to the Streeper Kennels and the world champions that they've produced there. I see that being more consistent with, I guess, the work that's been ongoing over the last few years with respect to downtown revitalization. And yeah, I just didn't want to see this project turn into a branding project, and that seems to be where it's starting to go with the size of the potential signs multiple that we're talking about putting out there. But an interim approach, you know, of perhaps putting signs like this on the boards at the arena. I mean, there's multiple places, I suppose, that do advertising like that. There's the arenas, there's the Ball Diamonds, there's the, you know, and there's all those kind of different places where a smaller sign, you know, with the same photo on it would express our appreciation in the meantime until we're able to get that. So that's my view. I'd like to see us, based on the cost and the idea that this is turning into a branding exercise, delay for the meantime and do something interim. Councillor Enoch, I see your hand up again.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't mean for this to become a branding conversation. Just recognition and a welcome sign at either end. Like you were talking about Kelly Sutherland, I've seen that, you know, through the years, different places too, you know, Timmins, Ontario, you know, where Shania's from, and, you know, other places. That's what I visualize with my big pullout, but I don't have that many years to wait. So I thought, well, okay, welcome to Fort Nelson sign, home of world champions. And if we have to cut it in half, you know, to cut the size down, just to have that welcoming. I don't know how many other cities in Canada can say they have 23 world championships under their belt living in their town. So that's just my thought. And we do have time. I mean, winter's just here, right? We do have time.
Okay. Councillor Dickey?
I think I go the other way, is that the project needs to be not branding, but also it needs to be, if we're going to do something, it should be artwork that beautifies the downtown area of what it looks like. I don't agree with just a billboard with a picture on it and words on it, but something that is more meaningful in artwork. So maybe it is a project that is planned within the next 18 months, where you could send it out, do an expression of interest for an artist to come up with a conceptual drawing, because I think it's an important part of Fort Nelson's history, and make it a, you know, I was at the home of the world champion dog sled community. Like, I think it really is a tourist attraction when people understand the history of the dog sleds teams. So I think for me, it's a more of a art project and an expression of interest, and not just a billboard, but some sort of design with lights that's meaningful. People can take a picture in front of it.
Okay, I don't know that we're any closer to deciding how to proceed. Not everybody's here, I suppose, but I'm sensing that this big sign is not what we're looking for. We're looking for something a little smaller, and And maybe, you know, maybe the place to put it, if we do something like, Counselor Dickey is putting forward, maybe it's on this new path this new sidewalk that we're building. You know, and it is small, so it's not distracting highway. It's looked after, so I think we put it on hold until we start looking for, we start looking forward to actually acting on the downtown plan.
So it is our intent to bring a report forward, based on previous conversation at council around the downtown revitalization plan and identifying those projects that were, you know, identified by our residents as key priorities for implementation, and then allowing, you know, council an opportunity to basically vet those and kind of help make a decision on where we start with that project. Branding, signage, benches, they should all be cohesive and conform with each other, right? And I think Councillor Dickey, your idea about artwork is great, but we want to make sure that whatever that artwork looks like, it's cohesive throughout our downtown area. So I think maybe there's planning steps that we need to do first, and then look at, you know, how do we now incorporate that into a larger theme sort of thing.
Yeah. So you treat this as one concept that joins the entire downtown, which now I think there's a little scope creep here. I think the downtown revitalization, potentially now we're talking all the way out to the campground, right? I don't think that was in there before, but that project potentially winds its way from there all the way through town. Okay. So I think we'll put this project, and thank you for the report. Thank you for everybody's input. Councillor Enoch, your hand is still up, or you have something else to say?
No, I thought it was down.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
So please be patient as we work this concept into the downtown revitalization. Okay, thank you.
So I just want to make sure that we don't lose sight of the things that we could do in the meantime that don't necessarily change anything, don't cost a lot of money. Maybe we don't want to put something up at the ice surface because we're waiting for artwork, but we could be posting something on our website, and I think we could be putting something on the electronic sign at the rec center. And I don't know, maybe staff have other ideas of where we could highlight that information too. Or not.
No, I like the idea, but I guess are we flipping it over to the recreation staff now, or still in planning, or, you know, for this interim approach? I mean, I don't know what. I mean, the $2,000 was for a pretty big sign, right? I don't know what it would take to put a 4x8 on the, you know, at the ice surface, you know, and the ball diamond. And I mean, I was trying to remember what a 4x8 sign cost at the election, and I think it was like $120. But artwork would be more, obviously, on there. You have a photo on there, but probably we could do something like that fairly inexpensively. So let me turn it over to staff. What do you suggest?
So I think the planning component linked to the downtown revitalization plan would make sense. That we'll stick to the planning department. If it's something that, because I was going to ask if conversation to leave that way, because it kind of stopped in regards to an interim approach. If council wishes us to investigate some options there, then I think the thought around the ice surface components fairly cost effective, similar to the ball diamond. And also, I think, you know, we're in the process of design with the trail group, the campground path. So it's something I think needs to be considered too, is given the amount of discussion that's occurred, considered as part of that piece too, to see if something fits from that aspect too. So we'll take a look what some options are, bring something back to council and the cost, and we'll go from there if that works.
Thank you.
In terms of the communications perspective, I believe before Krista Vandersteen went on holiday, she was looking at opportunities to take the Love Fort Nelson campaign more local. So I think NVIT is retiring that Love Local program. And so they've offered communities the opportunity to kind of adopt their own programs. And throughout COVID, the RDP team had created this series of Heart of the Community videos, and it was profiling local businesses and local service providers to let them share their story about how they were coping at the time, but also how they were continuing to contribute to the community. So maybe there's an opportunity through her kind of reinvention of that Love Fort Nelson to start telling the stories about some of the accomplishments of our local businesses like Strieper Kennels and others, and give them some profile through our channels that way.
Another good idea.
And if I can just add one more, sorry, and then I'll be quiet. If graphic could be created, we could add it to our signature lines when we're sending out communication or email or whatever, those of us that want to include that and as part of our signature, we could, include it if we could get a graphic.
Okay.
And that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, well, then forget it.
Not to rain in the parade, don't get me wrong, it's just, it's, there's at times a level of consistency when it comes to branding and stuff with email signatures and whatnot, because years ago, every email had a different message at the bottom, and we created a bit of a internal process where everything was consistent in regards to that, in terms of what that branding would look, or if there's a theme, whatnot. So not to take it away, Councilor Berman, or anything, just, but maybe we change it up. But it's just, it's something that typically goes consistently across the board. So that's all. Okay.
Okay, that brings us to 8.3 Administration Report 6123 to Andy Bailey Improvements Costs Update. Jonathan is here, I see.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I'm here with Admin Report 61. This one's a follow-up from the Admin Report 49 that's discussed on October 10th. And at the time, there was some discussion on the cost of the project in more detailed breakdown. So with the package that you got, there should be the detailed breakdown on it with the items highlighted in yellow. Those are the ones that are grant funded and part of that grant. And then the things outside of there are separate from that. Within that discussion, we got some ideas from council on what we're looking at, and we've also been continuing our work with the contractor and looking for some options for procurement and things like that, and in hopes that we can reduce the cost and as much as possible. So a couple of things in there. I'm sure if you look through it, and hopefully you did a good printing job, because there's one of the formats printed out a little bit funny. So if you're one of those lucky ones, you may not see all the numbers. But the bigger hitters in there that are outside of the grant funding are the first one being the second bug shelter at the boat launch. There's also the equipment storage shelter, the nature play area, and then the walking campsites. So with those items, we're still intending to go to tender with all the things outside of the grant as optional, but with those big ticket items as optional, and then the some opportunities for cost savings within some of the grant funded items, so that we can continue to cover a little bit more with that. We are hoping and looking at being able to reduce the overall amount that we would be on looking to fund outside of the grant within the neighborhood of 12 to 25%, which is a pretty good drop down from the 50% we were looking at before.
Yeah, good. Thanks for the report. It was the way you did it was easy to see what fits in and what doesn't. I like the idea of putting the non-grant funded pieces of infrastructure as options that will at least give us, some kind of an idea for budget time what that might look like, and whether we want to take advantage of any savings that the contractors put forward, because they're only mobbing once, that sort of thing. They've got a design for one, so if they do two, it's cheaper, that sort of thing. So Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what those numbers might be. Councillor Growing?
Yeah, I'm just wondering before we move too much further on the install 2 new walk-in campsites set for 68,000. Like, is that something that is required there? I don't have much statistical data on how many tents actually are used camping there. My experience has been mostly it's trailers. So
Yeah, most of what we've seen in the recent past, I guess, has been the bulk of it being trailers or motorhomes, that sort of RV camping. There is the odd tent that we do see, and usually when they usually camp down at the beach or that sort of thing. And that may be a good opportunity for cost savings where we don't need to put in the additional work to develop those sites, more so keep them natural as they are, because there are some clearings there where you can set up a tent and be fairly comfortable, I would think.
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so we may be able to save quite a bit of cost savings there, just while keeping that a little bit natural. It wouldn't have necessarily the fire pits, picnic tables, and all that stuff at the site, but those opportunities are there on the beach as well already. So there's opportunity for people to tent there and be enclosed in their own private space, but still utilize those.
And then the other, so we're not gonna move forward with that, or unless,
We're gonna
like,
come
where
forward
do
as
we
options.
go?
Yeah, come forward as options. We get to pick whether or not we want to actually add them in. I think that was the intent.
Yeah.
They would come as an option during the package that the contractors put to us.
So
They
we're
are-
still going to put that out for tender? Like, is it something that we even want to move forward with? Is
I-
developing those 2 tenting sites, like?
Well, it was part of the plan that the contractor came forward, the overall plan, it was part of it, and we agreed to that plan originally. So I think getting a cost estimate won't hurt us.
I thought we agreed high level, we didn't discuss the individual pieces because we didn't have the costing. And I had asked for the costing to help decide how we would move forward with that. But maybe I'm remembering it wrong.
Just asking for a tender doesn't mean you have to do it. It becomes something that you choose to do or not.
And my thoughts would be that it would stay in there as an option, and then we would make the responsible choice at that time based on the funding we have. Right?
That's what I thought.
And then we have the cost from the contractor.
It could be phase 1 of 2. That we do the grant funded things in the upcoming season, and then the optional things as being phase 2. Where did we get the funding for that? Yeah.
Destination BC is covering about 50% of the overall cost.
Because I'm wondering if maybe we could do that as saying, these are things we want to complete for 490,000 and 250 is phase 2, and apply for the next fiscal.
So everything that's in yellow is what the intent is that we be proceeding with as part of the project. The reason why we would put the other work as optional work is that we want to see what opportunities there may be or not be, for that matter, in terms of any synergies from a mold perspective, in terms of mold and demold. If a company's already coming up to do work, and also it also tests the market to see what the pricing is, right? So the intent is essentially it would be a phase 1 and phase 2 the way we're doing. It's just we're not necessarily saying absolutely not to doing the full scope of work. We're just going to reach out to see what the pricing would be coming back. Understanding that currently we don't have the funding for it from a grant perspective, and we haven't had a budget discussion either with council regarding if council wish to proceed with that, I'll say phase 2 component, where the funding would come from, right? If it's taxation or some other area.
Yeah, I'm reluctant to call it phase 2 because it's going to be done if we choose to accept the contractor's option. It's all being done at the same time.
That's correct.
Right?
Yes.
So I don't want to put any misconceptions out there that this is going to do this and then later we're going to come back and do this. They might do this as part of this if we choose to accept any one particular thing, whether it's the tents or the other things that are the tenting sites, or whether it's the other optional things that we've got in there. That'll be part of our budget discussions. But the first package is what's in yellow. Correct? Okay. Anything else? No? Okay. 8.4, which is, thank you, Jonathan, sorry. Administration Report 6223, the write-off of uncollectible taxes. Please.
Mayor and council, this is a standard request that we come to council with about once per year. And it's a write-off request. In order to write off assets of local government municipality, we need permission. And so that's what this is asking for. This year's amount totals about $178,000. Just for a little bit of context, this is now the 4th year that we've done this since 2019. We missed a year in between there, but it's a relatively new approach that we've been taking to deal with some of our uncollectibles.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay. There is a recommended resolution there. What are council's wishes? Councillor Souls?
I recommend that the Ministry of Municipal Affairs be requested to issue a minister's order for authorization to write off property taxes as identified on the attached listing totaling the amount of $177,979.76 and our RM portion of 103,031.56 for taxes and 49,981.67 for penalty and interest.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Souls. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Dickey. Thank you very much. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Report 6323, the 2024 first quarter grant and aid requests. Staff, please.
So as we continue to develop the government transfers program, we had advertised that the grant and aid intakes for 2024 were opening, and we had 4 applications as a result. They're there in attachment 1 for your review. And currently they all meet the policy. So the recommendation is that they be awarded as presented.
Thank you. Questions from council? I do have, I guess, a question, a policy question with respect to the new government transfer policy that we're writing, and whether or not we might be considering if we're giving money to organizations through that, are they still eligible for this smaller funding? So I don't know, like, it's double dipping is the wrong word. I just don't know what word, because it's not being done intentionally to try to fool anybody, but it's, if you're giving a healthy operational sum to an organization in the community through the government grant policy, should they still be available to apply for these smaller grants? Because these smaller grants, there might be other groups out there that would apply for them if they could. I don't know. I'm just wondering if we're having that discussion later as part of that policy.
I imagined that the government transfers policy essentially would absorb the grant and aid policy. And so the categories of grants within the government transfers policy would cover off the majority of the types of, or the reasons people are applying for grants and aid. And so, council direction would kind of flesh out the funding levels. Right now, the grant and aid policy is set at 1,000, but some of the feedback, $1,000 per organization per year, but some of the feedback we heard was that for the scale of some operations, it's not that helpful. And so it's trying to imagine, is it an event they're seeking funding for? is it within one of our facilities, and is there a separate policy that could address that need? And it's not even a grant and aid consideration or any type of government transfer consideration. And then if the group is looking for financial support for operations, then perhaps there's a different level of funding that's more appropriate, and based on, you know, how they demonstrate that need is where they kind of fall in terms of the value that's awarded. So, you know, I think the intention is to develop a government transfers policy that's fulsome enough that we wouldn't have this policy as well.
Right.
And that the overall needs of those organizations would be covered within the government transfers policy.
Yeah, because we've given money to some people and then not given them this grant, and we've been inconsistent. I guess, you know, consistency. And there's a couple here now that we've given funds to, and they're applying for this as well. So I guess we just need to get consistent, whatever that looks like eventually. So, okay, I see how you're going to fit it into that. It will all roll together. Okay, thank you. So went down a hole there a little bit, but it kind of answers the question with respect to the folks on here who have already received money from us. But what's council's wishes? To adopt the grant and aid as they are, or is there anybody who want to make?
I think it meets policy. Oh, sorry, Dan.
Go ahead.
I think that the 4 applications meet the policy as it's written today, and I can't see us doing anything but moving forward with that until we have finished with the new government grant transfer policy that we're creating. So we advertised it, people have applied, this is the policy. So I would make the recommendation that the 4 applicants for the 2024 first quarter grant and aid program be approved in principle.
Moved by Councilor Goering, second by Councilor Souls. Comments? There is a point that came out of that, and that is where this doesn't need to come to us, right? If it fits policy and everything fits, this really doesn't need to come to council. And so I think just, do we need to change anything? Is there a requirement here for it to come to council to make decision, or is that just a historical thing that we've always done?
It may be something it's been a while since I reviewed the grant and aid policy on that note in particular, but it may be something in there. And if it is, we can bring that back for reconsideration.
And we could change it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right. Question on the floor is that the 4 applications be approved. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh, yes, Councilor Soul seconded it. Yeah. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Administration report 64, the official community plan update kickoffs.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
This report is intended to provide information about where we are at with the OCP update project and inform council regarding high-level timelines and deliverables related to the project. As mentioned in the report, McElhenney, a consultant who has been awarded the project through the procurement process, will be providing their expertise in facilitating the engagements and updating the OCP, and NRRM staff will be providing supporting roles in all aspects of the project. Since the report was drafted, a detailed work plan that guide the collaborative approach between NRRM staff and McElhenney was developed, and a project initiation meeting was held on November 1st. Our next step is to conduct council and staff education session. 101 is scheduled on November 22nd, which will include the functions of OCP Advisory Committee and provide detailed timelines and deliverables information. McElhenney team will be in Fort Nelson for first trip the week of 27th of November, during which external partner interviews will be conducted, staff and council engagement, as well as community tour will be conducted. Overall, the regional council will be regularly consulted and provided with the information throughout the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? I'm excited that we're starting this process. Councilor Schultz?
I think it's great that we're starting the process and just wanted to just remind us of how we managed the OCP relative to Toad River last time around, in that because they too are part of this process, we actually made sure that they were right in the loop. Their organization was in the loop right from the beginning. So just want to make sure that they still understand.
Thank you. Anybody else? Comments? I think we're receiving this for information as with respect to where we are. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next report is a development variance permit application. So report number 65, 5215 Hallmark Crescent.
Hi again. This is a variance request for the property owned by Northern Rockies Region Municipality to accommodate the request of a physician occupying the property. The variance is requested in two sections of the Northern Rockies Region Municipality zoning bylaw, so as to allow the proposed structure to be sited forward of the principal building, and requesting the relaxation of the front yard setback from 6 meters to 2.84 meters. As per legislative requirements, the notice of DBP proposal was mailed to the adjacent property owners within 110 meters. No comments or concerns has been received so far, which satisfies the legislative requirements of public notification. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Are we all in conflict of interest? No, never mind.
I personally am not in favor of this development variance permit. And, you know, I have to try to take the who out of it. I mean, I understand the reason, you know, why the physician would like his car to be, you know, clean when he has to go to he or she has to go to the hospital in the, you know, in the middle of the night in snowstorm. I get that, but this is a rezoning application. And for me, you have to take into consideration what that does to the characteristic of the neighborhood. And because this is us initiating this, we have to expect that there will be a carport application for every single house on the street. Likely won't happen, but we'd have to consider that that might happen. And how could you ever say no to anybody else if you did it for yourself? So, you know, and carports can be really nice, or they can be a mess because they're wide open, you know, and pretty soon people are putting their garbage there, and pretty soon they're putting other things there. Other people take care of them, and they're just a carport. Very nice. But I think I will take into consideration the overall perspective of what it might do. Do I like those tents any better? No, I don't. But they're not a permanent structure. They meet the requirement of the zoning. And so for me, I can't support this the way it is. Anybody else? Councilor Chan?
I think that I didn't actually drive by to look, but of course, there's board fences that separate the front yard from the backyard. And so it's just that there is more property than just the front yard. And if this was beside the house, then it would be a different story altogether from that. So I don't know whether that's possible. I just think as well that there could be other options for it.
Councilor Gurley?
You know, I'm really struggling with this one as well. I think the NRM has put the zoning in place for a reason. The builders had to build that subdivision based on the zoning. Homeowners have had to develop their properties built on that zoning. And so now the NRM wants to make a change. So we are going to get a variance from the zoning. So I'm just most uncomfortable with that. And I can't support this application for variance.
Anybody else? What are council's wishes? Is there anybody willing to move this?
I'm wondering if is that the only place for that carport? It couldn't be attached to the building? It has to be at the property line?
It could be attached to the building, but at this point, there is a little bit of landscaping and then deck on the northern side of the property. But then it will increase the cost of the project.
I'd prefer to see an increase in cost than a rezoning. Like would, if it was just a garage or an attachment, would it be approved and meet bylaws, or would that not even meet a bylaw?
It would, but it would have to meet the building code requirement as well. In that case, I guess it would have to meet the all current building code requirement of the principal building. So that might be a significant rise in cost for renovation.
So if you look at attachment 2, which is the site plan, the paved driveway ends at the hatched line where the proposed carport is drawn. The raised deck comes off of a double door from the kitchen. So if we eliminate the raised deck, the double door off the kitchen goes nowhere. And we'd have to close that in. If it's a carport, we'd have to remove the fence, which we just replaced this year, to site it next to the house. And the ballpark quote for an enclosed garage is about $100,000 versus a carport's worth about $15,000. And the investment that we've put into this house over the years that we've owned it since 2008-9, I think, are significant. So we've had to replace retaining walls. We replaced the majority of the home's foundation, given drainage issues over the years, completely redid the interior caused by from the damages from the foundation. And this is, the home is sited quite a bit lower than the neighboring house to the north. So all of that home's drainage comes into our lot. And then of course, our lot drains into the next lot. So we've done a lot of work to try to address those drainage issues over the years. So, I mean, while anything's feasible with enough money, it's just the concern of continuing to build these significant structures on a lot that's already, we're struggling to maintain drainage on. So, you know, this was kind of identified as a cost-effective option that looks a little bit more finished than some of the more temporary tent type structures. But understanding that, yeah, it could be something that's, you know, attractive to a lot of neighbors, and they might too. There are a number of homes on the street with garages and similar kind of temporary structures, but this was kind of, I think, the solution that we thought might address all the needs of being fiscally responsible, but also meeting the doc's request too. So
Thanks for that history. Anybody else? So we'll ask the question again. Is there anybody prepared to move it? It will. If there's no mover, then it'll fail for lack of mover.
I'm wondering if it sounds like the property that we own has caused concerns and has cost money and doesn't suit our needs. So what about selling it and buying a place with a garage? There are properties in town similar to this. Is this a duplex? No, there are places in town that have garages and maybe is more suitable for us. Cause I too don't agree that as council that we can make a decision on our own property to change the bylaw.
Yeah. So that's certainly you know, if this fails, then, you know, that's certainly something for staff to consider. So I'll ask again, is there anybody who's prepared to make this motion? Seeing none, it fails on for lack of mover. Thank you. 8.8 is the procedure amendment bylaw number 223 for adoption. If you recall, this was the change to allow the billboard out front as a posting area for posting after the newspaper is closed. So anybody move adoption? Moved by Councillor Gerwing, Do I have a seconder for adoption? Second by Counselor Souls. Discussions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That passes. 8.9 is the Northern Rockies Official Community Plan Amendment, Highway 77 Large Holding, file on number 213. Does anybody from staff want to speak to this? Thank you, Rada.
So agenda number 8.9 and 8.10 are for the same topic. If council wouldn't mind, I could speak to both together because we have only one report for both of them.
Yeah.
So this report is brought back for adoption as all the requirements set out for the adoption, including establishment of the covenant 219 restricting subdivision, as well as registering it to the land title, public notification, referral requirement, all such has been satisfied. And regarding the resolution 155/2023, it will be ensured that the two zones do not include each other during the development permit application process, as there are some additional fencing requirements concerning storage area in the C3 zone in our zoning bylaw. Thank you.
Good. So the proponent has finished everything they've required to do. Ministry of Transportation and Highways has no further comment. I think there was a couple of things they had added in there, but they've got no further. Agricultural Land Commission says that there's no interest. They don't have an interest in it. We've read it 3 times, so it's ready for adoption. Is there anybody from council who would move the adoption? Okay, moved by Councillor Souls. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Dickey. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. So the next is the zoning amendment for the same. So that was the official community plan. This is zoning amendment for adoption. Moved by Councillor Souls. Second by Councillor Dickey. Is there any further discussion with respect to the zoning? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to correspondence. There is one for discussion, but I also would like to move 9.3 and 9.5. 9.3 is the letter from the chair of the Peace River Regional District and the invitation from MLA Dan Davies constituency staff and their open house. I'd like to move that. Could I have a motion to adopt, change the agenda? Moved by Councillor Souls. Do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor Growing. I forgot to do this at the start. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 9.1 is a letter from Karen Newmoon, the Executive Director of Northern Lamplighters, looking for a resolution for support. Okay, could you read it for the audience, please?
I would just like to make a motion that we provide a letter of support for the Northern Lamplighters Activities Center Association in regards to their grant application. Oh, and she even wrote it out here for us. That the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality supports the application to Northern Development Initiative Trust Community Places from the Northern Lamplighters Activity Center Association for the new chairs for the Lamplighters Hall project in the amount of $14,478.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Grewing, seconded by Councillor Dickey. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. 9.3 is a letter from Chair Hebert of the Peace River Regional District asking for our support with respect to an extension for the for consultation around the proposed Emergency Disaster Management Act. CAO Barry, would you like to speak to this? Because I think it impacts staff probably more than
Yeah,
us.
no, for sure. And we haven't, had an opportunity to bring something to council regarding some of the proposed amendments and give it a thorough review ourselves. It's been on the docket for a while, but EMCR, Emergency Management Climate Readiness, is wanting to get this new legislation passed by December 30th. And we also have some concerns around some of the impacts to us as an organization. And based on what we've gone through so far, we've talked with Peace River Regional District, and I've talked to CAO there also in terms of some of our shared concerns regarding potentially the downloading of responsibilities. If you look back at this summer, the amount of capacity required just to navigate through what we were dealing with this summer, and there's potential that there'd be an increase to a needed increase of capacity to deal with future events based on some of the legislation. So we would definitely support PRD's efforts and share their same concerns. Yeah.
Thank you. So would you say we write the Peace River Regional District a letter of support, or a letter to Minister Ma, which maybe does both?
I think
supports them and puts forward our ideas for extension of that.
that would probably make sense. I think it's good to support what PRD is doing, but acknowledge we have similar concerns and share those concerns.
Okay, so one letter to Minister Ma, copy it to the Peace River Regional District. Okay, I'll accept a motion that we ask staff to do that. Moved by Councillor Dickey that we write a letter to Minister Ma supporting the Peace River Regional District and letting Minister Ma know that we have concerns with the timeline with the new legislation. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Souls. For discussion? Councillor Souls?
I don't know if you've had the opportunity to read this at all. From a rural Peace River country farming perspective, I think there will be a lot of pushback. It's basically just the government and its emergency management giving itself complete control and power over everybody's places, every person, every so on in region. It's a very, very far overreach as far as people like me are concerned. It's very much overreach.
Anybody else? Seeing none, all in favor then of this? Opposed? This carries. Thank you. So I have for information 9.2, 9.4, 9.6, and then the council information packages 9.7, 8, and 9. Can I have a motion to receive those for information, please? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss one? I did. So I did. 9.5 is the letter from MLA Davies inviting us to his open house, and I think probably he would like to know if there's anybody who's planning on attending. You can put my name down. I'll show up there. Anybody else? You're out of town that day? Okay. Okay.
I might drop in.
Okay. All right. I think he just probably wants to know how many people are going to be there. So if you can check your calendars, please, and let Jody Lee know so that she can let them know. Thank you. So thanks for that reminder. 9.2, 9.4, 9.6, 9.7, 8, and 9 for information, please. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Dickey, seconder. Councillor Gerwing, thank you very much. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, I don't think we had any new business. Are there any councillor reports? Anybody wish to report? Okay, Councillor Gerwing, please.
Hey, so on October the 26th, I attended virtually for one of the days of the Coast Waste Management Conference. October 31st, the mayor and I met with, well, it's a research project, the Rural Emergency Health Services Innovation Research Project. So we met with Dr. Nellie Oakley from UBC and Dr. John Polovich, who's the director of Rural Education Action Plan, RCCBC. He's also the UBC Chair in Rural Health and a clinical professor with the Department of Family Practice at UBC. The purpose of this study is to better understand real-time innovations in BC emergency health services. Teams along with other supports, so virtual care services, emergency transport to improve health care access. The study will focus on case studies in the community of Atlan, Fort Nelson, and 100 Mile House. And I'll keep you informed as we will continue meeting with them as they conduct this research project. It was a really great meeting and had subsequent emails of stuff that they want to work with us. So I'll keep you informed on that. Spookorama, October 31st, also was so wonderful to see the community out in full force to celebrate once again. The rec center staff did an amazingly wonderful job hosting the community celebration. It was just so much fun. The kids had a blast. I had a blast. It was good if you weren't there. November the 2nd, I attended the Community Health Plan Steering Committee meeting. Just a few notes. The Airport Way is currently fully staffed, touch wood. Once again, a community member had to be flown out of town for a needed CT scan, reinforcing our need to have this service available locally. The hospital is experiencing long wait times for out of province or country nurses to receive the necessary authorization to work in BC. So they're hired, but they're just waiting, and it can be up to a year. So I've requested more information from Annette so that we as local government can maybe do some advocacy around this situation. It's not just affecting us, but we could maybe get involved. I attended the Remembrance Day service on November the 11th, and much appreciation and gratitude to the Fort Nelson Fire Rescue and all those involved in hosting this Day of Remembrance. The mayor gave a wonderful address reminding us all of the stark realities of war and Canada's contribution and commitments. It was really good. And then just a really quick vermicompost update. I was informed today that Fort Nelson First Nation has all 10 community buildings being set up with compostable waste collection bins, which will divert organics and paper from the landfill to the vermicomposting site. And GW Carson School has added compostable waste bins in each classroom. So we're moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Are there any other council reports? I guess I would just add my thoughts to the research project. Councilor Gerwing and I attended. They were, very interested in the virtual care that's happening at the hospital, and they're pretty open-minded about some of our transportation ideas, which is I'm looking forward, hopefully, to be able to work with them, and maybe they can put a good word in for us, and maybe we'll get some good ideas. From one idea, from Dr. John, was about that can be a two-way thing. He seems to think that if it was easier for specialists to come to the community, like some kind of a flight that we're doing from a medical perspective, that he might be able to see more physicians, particular specialists, coming this direction. So so he's got some great ideas. I did attend the Remembrance Day ceremony, gave an address. A little bit nervous about throwing in history there, but it was well received. It's something nowadays we have generations of folks who don't know what to remember, and so I think sometimes a bit of a history discussion during the ceremony, whether it's the mayor or somebody, call them a historian or whatever, but you take 5 or 6 minutes to actually remember something that happens and pass along a story a story of remembrance. And so I did that, and it was well received. So I think I'll probably do it again. Okay, so that's my report. Those are the two main things that I think I did. There's no business outstanding so are there any notice of motions that are not on here? Is there any questions from anybody, members of the public, online, budget? Okay. We will go. We don't have a closed meeting for this regular So adjournment is in order, please. Do you have a motion? Moved by Counselor Souls, second by Counselor Gerwin. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you. We are adjourned. And we will recall the special council meeting, go back